Hello, good afternoon, good morning. We'll give you like 1 more minute for more people to join, and we will start the webinar in that time. Okay, let's start. So hello again, everyone, and welcome to our first webinar of our webinar series in partnership with Global Relay. My name is Gonzalo, and I will be your moderator for today. And before we start officially the webinar, I wanted to give you like some housekeeping rules. So basically, you can submit questions via the Q&A inbox, and we will answer these at the end of the webinar. Use the toolbar at the bottom of the webinar to the webinar screen to access resources such as speakers' biographies, webinar materials, technical support, and a survey to capture your thoughts and views onto the discussion. Moving forward, today, what we will be focusing will be around like how ecommunications have evolved in the financial markets, what was the impact around like the COVID and like the market disruptions and how it impacted like the markets and the financial markets participants. What were the challenges that rise from it, and how can we address these challenges? Afterwards, we're going to have like a Q&A, which, as I mentioned, like you can put the questions through the chat and we will try to answer all of them. Yeah. To help us go through this, we invited like some people from like both like Global Relay and from Refinitiv. We have like Donald McElligott, like VP of Compliance and Supervision from Global Relay. We have Remington Jarvis, Business Development from Global Relay, and we have Vince DeMasi from our performance team, like for EMEA. Just before we go into like more detail, I just wanted to highlight the partnership that we have with Global Relay for the last 12 years. It's a very important partnership, especially because we keep like our customers, as you can see for the numbers of what we have here, 37,500 users and almost 900 customers rely like on the Global Relay, like archiving messaging to kind of execute their work and do their workflows and make sure everyone's still compliant. So I just wanted to highlight that part. And from there, we will move into the first question. Like basically, how ecommunications evolved in the financial markets. Donald, can you please provide like some views here?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. We want to look back a little bit at the evolution of communications here because it set us up for the impact it has in the COVID world we find ourselves in right now. And it's always kind of evolved in a bit of a cycle where the technology takes a leap ahead. And of course, it started with email. It was a bit of a wild west at first, but folks jumped on email. They were able to communicate quickly, efficiently. A lot of business moved to email. Then the regulations have to catch up. And the next cycle is making sure supervision and controls are put in place on the email communications that now businesses move to. As the speed of that increased, along comes instant messaging, which was even faster, instant. Once again, supervision and technology controls had to catch up a little bit to make sure they can keep pace with another wave of change. The final stages involve tools like the Refinitiv messenger tools, there's Bloomberg market tools. Now there's a wave of collaboration tools out in the market. It started with, you think back to the Yahoo and the AIM days, and now there's Slack and Teams and other controls that all about getting folks to connect to one another quickly and more efficiently, but also bringing about the challenges. So in one sense, it made it very easy for us to adapt to this new kind of work from home model in the COVID days. It's also brought a lot of challenges in and of itself. So we're going to talk a little bit about the way the impact happened to those challenges. With that, Vince, you want to take your comments here?
Yeah, thanks, John. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. I would say, yes, the evolution path of e-communications in the last few years has been fast and tangible, I think, in all areas of our society. On a daily basis, we exchange more data, we use more tools, we do it faster than 2 years ago, and this impacts all of us, despite all our generations. And the financial community is not immune to this, and actually entirely reflects those trends. If I look at what's today on a meeting or on a sales desk, the drivers of the change, the vectors are clear. We exchange a lot more in terms of volume of unstructured information. The velocity, the speed at which we exchange information is definitely different. We can do it in a few seconds compared to a few years ago, sharing key information with clients, counterparties, but also the variety of the tools we can use today to collaborate is incredibly much better, with organizations and individuals leveraging social media platforms and enterprise systems. And there is actually, to your point on email, there is research on the market predicting that at some point collaboration services can replace email in the coming future. And while security has always been a paramount in our sector and industry, mobile access to those collaboration tools became a key topic in recent years. And I would say today even more, with the concept of work from home and the virtual environment been pushed in. Now, as the use of this multitude of electronic communication tools, also available remotely, becomes core and critical to many organizations, this generates multiple risks and additional risks to be managed in an already highly regulated financial market. There is simply more to be archived, more job to be done to define the boundaries, the perimeter of the tools we authorize in our organization. And the positive side of this is that more data means that we can analyze, that we can try to extract value, proactively understanding and detecting patterns in behavior, and preventing misconduct and improve internal policies. So to come to a conclusion, I would say yes, electronic communications are key to financial markets community. Their growth, expansion, and evolution cannot be neglected, because it's already reshaping some important components of the value chain of financial markets. And working from home instead, because electronic communications and collaboration systems fill the gap that we were brought into from some distance.
No, thanks for that. And that's really kind of direct us, like for what's happening now in the market and working from home. Like it kind of brings like more concerns to all of us. So we made this poll question, like as we transition for working from home, what is your bigger concern? I will give a couple of seconds for the audience to answer, and then so for us to provide some comments around that. Yeah. So technology resilience. Donald, would you like to provide some comments on this answer? What's your view?
Yeah.
You surprised with this?
That's a curious response, and it fits because I think the technology uncertainty is touches all of the aspects of the work from home. When you think about the reliance on the technology, in terms of keeping the business running, obviously the response to the customers and to the market is first and foremost in the company's mind. But to folks on the compliance side, it has to also be countered with the keeping up with that pace of technological change. So we rushed a lot of folks into some different situations and onto some different platforms. So being able to adapt that quickly and still maintain your compliance coverage it's impressive when you can keep up with that pace of change. So thinking about it, yeah, not terribly surprising to see how technology was touching all aspects of this.
No, that's thanks for that. Definitely, I think this kind of leads, especially like for the challenges that we've been seeing, like especially with the COVID, and that brings us to the next topic, which how has like COVID-19 impacted the markets and the financial markets participants? Vince, can you please provide like some feedback here?
Yes, sure, and possibly a answer to your question can be shaped correctly in 1 year time. But today, I think we can all agree that the COVID-19 pandemic has deeply and is affecting our markets, posing big challenges to the participants due to the uncertainty it brought in, for unveiling how deeply interconnected our economies are, with that interlinking being a source of strength and fragility at the same time. Financial markets went through weeks of increased volatility. To put it very clearly, what used to be an unexpected busy day 5 months ago turned and became between March and April. So financial organizations had to cope with several crisis areas, more volatility, and all of this facing an unprecedented scenario, making such that their operations can continue with most or all of their staff working remotely from home or dedicated sites. In the chart you can see here on the left from Icon, you can see the volatility uptick here represented by the Deutsche Bank currency volatility index that shot up to the highest level since 2012 in mid-March. And on the right side, you can see the uptick in the number of real-time messages on our core infrastructure, real-time network, moving from almost 80 billion per day to 180 billion on 28th of February. And similarly, if we look at what happened on the market, traded volumes on our trading platform picked up from 450 to 540 billion per day, reflecting the tensions in the market. And the same moving from, let's say, trading platform to unstructured and collaboration system, the same applied to our Refinitiv Messenger platform, where a sharp increase in all the three categories in terms of directory sites, active users using the system, and volumes of the messages exchanged, increasing 40% in mid-March. So in essence, financial markets players acted and reacted in a certain sense to do three things: sustain, inform, and evolve. Sustaining their operations and their continuity in the crisis days. That was key. Gathering all the information required for those systems to control the related systems and costs, review the policies in the short term, and this is an important, take steps to evolve and make sure that the right decisions can be taken to ensure something very important: resiliency, the ability of their operations and infrastructure. In the framework of cost optimization, because resources are unfortunately not endless. And I would like now to get the view from the global relay angle and the take from Remy on this.
Thanks, Vince, and fantastic comments there. Yeah, I don't think anyone is surprised to see such a massive uptick in the amount of messages being shared across platforms like Refinitiv Messenger and email and other communication networks, considering that every piece of office communication that may have been taking part in one-to-one conversations or meetings has now shifted to an electronic communication method. And to me, it just, what immediately comes to mind is how the back office teams that have their workflows intertwined with this data and this messaging data, how they're coping with literally 100% increase in the amount of volume that they're monitoring and seeing on a day-to-day basis. And then I really do like your slide here because it represents what a lot of our customers are telling us about their experience through COVID. The first couple of weeks of working from home was really just a matter of keeping your head above the water, getting your lab running, getting VPNs connected, getting people back to work in a somewhat normal situation. And while we're looking at the near future, not expecting any massive changes and not expecting to go back into the office, what are back office teams like surveillance doing to evolve and stay ahead of the curve? It may seem incredibly counterintuitive, but now is actually a fantastic time to make the necessary changes to your surveillance framework and infrastructure. Everything's in flux. Your firms are making massive onboardings to cloud-based solutions like Microsoft Teams and Zoom. They've allowed everyone to work from home and businesses to stay afloat. But at the same time, where's the effort being put into integrating these systems? Is it integrating them into legacy surveillance infrastructure that isn't able to scale and meet these needs and provide the tools that are necessary? Or is now the perfect time to look at making the necessary changes and future-proofing yourself further? Because in my opinion, it won't stop at things like Microsoft Teams or Slack or Zoom. We're all in a new situation, and it's only a matter of time until even more advanced products are hitting the market to cater to the work-to-home community. And even if you've got a solution right now in place, the future-proof that.
No, thanks for that. And from what I can see, what you mentioned, both of you, is that like organizations are facing many challenges at the moment, from like a short-term to medium to a long-term perspective, and how they will react, and all of it will even create more challenges. So we have another question for the audience to see like what's the biggest challenges like your organization is at the moment facing. Excuse me. I will give some seconds to the audience to respond to it.
I hope everyone takes a minute on this one to answer, because I'm curious, as our organizations went through these shifts ourselves, not only with our customers, but for our own organization. So it's going to be interesting to see the response and where the focus is. Yeah.
Let's discover then. Donald, what do you read from these results? It's a very divided audience, I would say.
Yeah, it's very, very balanced, and not surprising. We probably have participants from across the spectrum, and depending on where your interest lies in an organization, each one of these has a particular focus. And the idea that the technology crosses all of this. So obviously technology underlies everything, every part of this, and working remotely is what the objective is, to mobilize an organization. And we did this at Global Relay ourselves, to take every member of the team and get them functional remotely from their houses is no small task. And the entire industry responded so quickly. It really has been impressive. But not surprising to see compliance and security at the top, because that's the uncertainty that comes with trying to keep up with the needs. The technology moves faster than the regulations and the security, so they tend to have to chase the technology and keep up. So not terribly surprising there.
Yeah, great. And Don, happy to add to that. Go ahead, Vince.
I was saying, Remy, that I think the balance of the answers is also due to the fact that all those four components are interrelated, and so there is a link between the four. And definitely, after the first round, to make sure that everything was up and running, compliance and security is a key theme. Back to you, Remy.
Yeah, exactly. And building on that, I mean, your slides earlier showed the market volatility. We're all in unprecedented times, and suddenly people are no longer surrounded by coworkers. There's a lot less accountability. They're sitting at their kitchen table or at a home office and trying to keep their jobs and trying to perform with suddenly a lot less eyes on them. I know that if I was working in a supervision role, I would be incredibly worried right now on what these actors are doing, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see that in a couple months to a couple years, the events on the news that are hitting the news are taking place while people are working at home in very uncertain times, and they need to just kind of get numbers on the board.
It is definitely like complicated times, and the challenges seems like just to keep like adding up to companies, to organizations, in the financial services. The next question that I had was around like, what are the main challenges the organization is facing? Donald, I think like both the three of you already like kind of provided like big feedback on this. Is there anything that you would like to add to it?
Yeah, I think just to bring up some of the key elements we've heard from our customers, we've done some outreach within our community to kind of gather some feedback a little more specifically on the technology. So first off are the unsupervised channels. The move often outpaces the regulations or the supervision model. So there's a lot of firms that have been scrambling, and we've seen this in our own customer base reaching out to start adding new message types, and that's a key concern. If I suddenly move everybody to Zoom meetings, or if I suddenly stand up new Slack channels or spread my entire organization onto a new messaging platform, can I be sure that I collect all that data and capture all that information? So having a tool that can handle that level of flexibility, that can turn on a new messaging channel or a new communication platform is significant. Covering the different devices, you got to feel that in a lot of cases, people have already their laptop. They just had their laptop at home anyway. They plug it into their home network and off they go. And it's a work laptop. But in many cases, they might not have a work authorized device. They're using a web portal on their home PC to get into the networks. Or they might have their laptop up and open, but right next to them is their own home PC anyway, and they're doing things on that aren't as tightly controlled as when you're sitting in your office cubicle and everything's locked down onto a secure network. So the uncertainty around a device that doesn't have the right level of control, a user using mobile text on their personal device, another issue of a platform that perhaps is a challenge to capture. The unsecured networks themselves, even as the compliance teams move out to remote locations and start working from home, they still need access to very sensitive data in order to supervise it. And they're doing it potentially from their home Wi-Fi, where they never bothered to change the admin password on their little Wi-Fi router. Concerns like that are real. Adding the VPN requirement, adding a control around what IP addresses have access to the network so that when your compliance team is reviewing the sensitive trading data for your organization, you can be sure that it's happening on a secure platform through a secure network, even when they are sitting on their home Wi-Fi routers. So those are the kinds of concerns we saw, and I think we're pretty well positioned to face those. Vince, I'll let you chime in. I know you had some comments on this as well.
John, actually, there's a perfect description of the current environment and what we're witnessing with our clients as well. I think working from home has definitely contributed to expose the human side of our jobs, with telcos and conferences opening a window on our private lives and possibly improving the degree of empathy in such a difficult situation. Social media and collaboration platforms and corporate enterprise level play a big role, as we said before, in filling the gap in those times. But at the same time, it was a big challenge for many players. As you said correctly, organizations had to switch to virtual working environment or working from home, leveraging those connectivities, home internet connectivity of their employees or corporate mobile devices, and placing their VPNs, their virtual connectivity, private connectivities networks under severe stress, and vendors providing those multi-factor authentication processes to guarantee the combination of security and continuity, which is a very important mix in crisis times. And we have asked the question to the global FX community to understand where they are and we're working from. And the majority of the global FX community is actually working from home, with a portion of the community working from specific sites, the so-called business continuity locations. And more recently, we are starting to see, a new policy of staff splitting and rotation, just to alternate working from home and a percentage of the employees working from the proper trading or sales desk. Now, while, as you said, we normally tend to visualize the financial markets workers and the trading departments, client-facing, work from home does mean to those key activities that needs to be performed when it comes to post-trade operations, back and middle office, compliance, surveillance. From day one, employees start to clients and external counterparties using mobile phones, leveraging collaboration tools, social media solutions like WhatsApp or Telegram, and so on. So the question and which was and is, are we equipped to continue monitoring and archiving? Where are we archiving? How can we access the archives or recordings if anything needs to be controlled? And by the way, how many archives do we have? One for each of the sources? Is it a deployed solution only? And what about those circumstances and scenarios where there is a lot of processing or ticket? I'm sure most of the players have their plans and policies and executed at best, given the unprecedented scenario. But there is also a big opportunity here, as Remy mentioned before, to improve and evolve, leveraging better technology solutions to make sure we are better equipped, in a sense, to better face a potential new situation, a potential new black swan. But in one phrase, I would say to be more agile and more resilient to face those situations.
So my next question would be like, and thanks for both your comments. I think it's very interesting to hear like all the scale of challenges that the companies are facing at the moment as the markets are evolving, and especially when it comes like from a market disruption occasion. And this graphic like that we ask our questions is really showcases how they are trying to figure out everything. But my next question is, how can we address these challenges? And how can we like make sure that even though we're working from home, even though like we have business continuity plans, we have connection limitations, we have VPN limitations and so on, how can we address them and ensuring that we will still be like compliant, we will be working according to the law, we will be working like the workflows will not be broken, etc. Remy, do you want to provide some feedback here?
Yeah, of course, happy to. I think what's extremely interesting, and we have to all give credit where credit is due, has been the fact that we have managed to completely shift workforces to work from home. Chatting with many of our customers, they went from having 2% of their workforce being equipped to work from home to 98% in a matter of weeks. A massive challenge, a massive deployment, but it's worked, and a lot of people have managed to stay employed throughout these past couple of months because of that. And when you look at how they did it, it really was through cloud-based messaging services, things that are extremely scalable. Microsoft Teams, I've mentioned, Slack, Zoom, Skype, all of those systems were cloud-based, and allowed internal IT resources to scale them up at an extremely quick rate and get them onto people's desktops so people could work from home. And yes, they've presented new challenges through this time, because now we have more messages flowing, we have more new types of technology interfering with our existing workflows. But I firmly believe the solution to that is again in the cloud, through consolidated archives and comprehensive surveillance solutions. And those two things go really hand in hand. Compliance officers, and they really need to see the full picture in order to understand what's going on and stay on top of their employees. And you can't do that being split between 3 or 4 different monitoring systems where some message is over here and some message is over here. You really need to get things into a single solution where you can find exactly what you need, see the big picture, and help you understand exactly what's going on. And again, cloud-based scalability. And when we talk about scalability, it's not just the amount of messages that are going into the system or the amount of employees being captured. It's also the different types of messages being captured. We've seen new systems onboarded incredibly quick and need to get plugged into existing solutions for these firms to maintain compliance. Companies and compliance officers really need to be looking for systems that can keep up with modern technology, that they're not going to get left behind the curve and stuck on a system that can't advance as quickly as their users are. When we look at security, and Don was digging into a couple points there about VPN access, IP whitelisting, security is always a massive obstacle when it comes to putting any data in the cloud. Firms are looking to hand over the keys to their data to a third-party company instead of managing it themselves. It's a large risk. But once you get a solution in place that you can trust, meaning that it's got a strong history and it's got proven controls, you know that you can then consolidate more and more things into it. It becomes a massive asset for your firm, having a consolidated archive with extremely robust security, because as new messages and new types of data start flowing in the future, you've already solved one of the most complex problems. You're not looking to onboard a new archive or a new surveillance solution every time. You've got your gold source that you can continue to add to. Lastly, just talking about behavioral analytics and machine learning. The fact is, eyes and ears, physical eyes and ears have always been a massive asset in the office. Other employees and managers noticing if someone's showing up to the office at weird times or making phone calls or pulling out an unauthorized device at a weird time. It's the office environment that's created a lot of security and control around it, and now suddenly everyone's working from home without those eyes and ears around them. And that's where behavioral analytics can suddenly lend to this. You can start filling the gap, and that's where we look for solutions such as timelines and relationship graphs to understand when someone's sitting at their kitchen table, who are they communicating with? When do they start communicating? And what seems out of the normal that we may want to start looking at? Typically, that was always the eyes and ears of their colleagues, and now we need some more advanced tools to step in and help us out there. Vince, Don, do you guys have anything to add to that?
Well, thanks, Gonzalo. I think you have provided a very exhaustive description of how to overcome those challenges. And what I would add is that when we decided to extend our partnership with Global Relay and then launch the Refinitiv Compliance Archive solution, we had a very clear vision on how financial markets can be challenged, improved, and to some extent reshaped by the rising role of enterprise collaboration tools and other social media platforms that you describe here in this very nice chart. Our solution leverages one of our key values, that is openness, that translates into the ability to collect, analyze, archive, and monitor an incredibly wide set of zero IT footprint in a mode. And this is also why we wanted to make sure our FX trading output in terms of conversations and tickets can flow in and be part of that analysis and that monitoring when it comes to surveillance. What happens if a specific trade or trade activity is placed just after a huge increase in exchange of messages with some specific counterparties? To overcome is that exactly of the space or fragmented archiving, moving electronic communications into, let's say, monitoring and surveillance of e-coms into a new level that is about having, a single point of collection for all data sources, including voice, email, dealing, Refinitiv Messenger, Bloomberg chats, Teams, and so on, plus providing a single secure point of entry. I would say that definitely, a nice solution is the one which is open and agnostic and provides also the right quality of powerful analytics in order to extract value from that information and not just storing. And when it comes to that, just to remark that point, leveraging a fully hosted platforms leaves you with the advantage of, zero local IT footprint and the ability to continue operations also from surveillance and monitoring point of view without any interruption.
No, thank you so much for all your comments. I know, Donald, Vince, Remy, you would be able to speak about this for hours, but we actually are like a bit short on time now. So, and we are receiving like a couple of questions from the audience, and I think we should move forward to them because I think like the questions that are coming will actually help us like respond and keep the conversation going. Would that be okay? So,
yeah.
As the first question that comes, with Global Relay Refinitiv solution in place, how easy will it be in the future for banks to add new messaging types and formats? For example, blockchain, STP, video, etc. Donald, Vince, Remy, who wants to take this one?
I can take a stab up front from the Global Relay perspective. A huge focus of our development organization pays very close attention to the evolution of messaging as it continues and the development of new platforms. And they are dedicated to building the tools to collect that data from the source. So it is meant to be easy so that when new technologies come into the game and are starting to get depended on by the firms out there trading and doing business, we want to be right behind that and capture that immediately. And when we capture data from these sources, it's meant to preserve the integrity of the data. We don't want to build tools, or you don't want to have a system that just scrapes off some text and crams it into an archive where it loses all its value. You want to preserve the original format of the information. So it's very much a focus of Global Relay to stay on top of those latest new types, make it very easy to just add one more message type to your existing archive and have it flow in with the rest of the data and become part of that holistic view that a compliance person needs.
Yeah, Don, I think you're completely up the right alley, and this is where I see with a reliable and flexible vendor, the compliance archive can become a massive asset to a firm. They're looking to onboard new technology. They're looking to start video chats, to pick up Zoom, to pick up something like Teams, to give them the business edge they need, but nobody wants to run into compliance and security roadblocks. Having a gold source archive that you can trust, that is a fantastic place for the end storage of your data, for processing data, helps solve all of your privacy requirements, helps you onboard messaging systems and new technology way faster because you've solved all the back end with a single simple solution that you can rely on.
No, that's brilliant. Vince, I don't know if you want to add anything else to this, but I have other questions that are popping up through the chat. and one of them is actually like regarding Teams. And as more and more so basically the question is, Teams is more and more demanded as communication channel by customers. What are your perspectives to one recording of the Teams channel?
I'll take this one.
Maybe I can.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I'll take it from an account management perspective over here at Global Relay, and we've just seen massive adoption overall of Teams in the past year, but specifically in the past couple months during lockdown and working from home, an increase in about 10% over a short month of Teams deployments. With a collaboration platform like that, it's not just about your trades or business-to-business communication. This becomes the primary internal communication tool as well. Channels become your break rooms and your lunch rooms. Projects are run through Teams instead of through meetings. And overall, it's all communication that you need to be looking at from a supervision and compliance point of view, but also from an HR point of view. This is where, I hate to say it, this is where HR issues of the future are going to be taking place, is in platforms such as this. So I have to argue, yes, you need to capture your teams, whether it's Teams, whether it's Slack or another collaboration platform of that level. It really will become one of your biggest inter-business communication tools, and you need insight into that from a compliance perspective. And also, it can give you some great analytics around what's going on in your business. How are people communicating? How can you make things more efficient?
Okay, yeah, there's a couple more questions. Give me a second to read them. I think in light of the proliferation of social media platforms, is it sufficient for compliance to have procedures that state which platforms are acceptable for business? Sorry, sorry, because there was something that moved here. Yeah, I just moving the question while I was reading it, so sorry for that. That states like platforms are acceptable for business use, and that these will be monitored. Or to be compliant, are you required to actively limit which platforms can be accessed by staff? What can be done additionally to monitor staff communication methods, especially with the move to home working?
I'd like to jump in.
That's a good question, Gonzalo. And
yeah,
I would start possibly. I think everything goes back to the point of how do you want to manage your risks, right? And I think a lot has been done, and a lot will be done in these months to review those policies, as we mentioned before. I think it's important to define the boundaries. What are the tools that can be used, both from a technology and so use the channels that the organization defines as secure and reliable, and also to protect and be sure that the tools and the channels that are used are monitored, and allows recording, and allows the opportunity to go back into what happened in case this would be required from an investigation or any other, let's say, event that can trigger the analysis. I think it goes back to the policy that the organization wants to introduce to protect from the set of risks that can be introduced if additional uncontrolled channels are used to interact with clients or counterparties or with the market.
Brilliant. I have more questions here. One of them is actually regarding like voice and mobile, and I think this one is quite interesting. Like voice and mobile are now extensively used. How is this captured? And how can actually do the extraction of them from that data? Remy, Donald, do you want to cover that one?
Sure, I can jump in on that one. There are actually two separate challenges depending on the source of the data. So one of the biggest hurdles in the capture of text messages, for example, is the source of the data, and the platforms in use are so disparate across different geographical locations, different platforms, whether it's a corporate supplied device or someone bringing their own mobile phone to the table. There are tools that allow the capture in various sources depending on the platforms being used. The key there is having that technology partner that can cover all of those options, because no one tool is going to do every avenue of text communications. We at Global Relay have a solution that supports mobile texting, that gives a user a virtual phone number that they can essentially use their BYOD phone, communicate with customers, and have all of that information captured. Other corporate-owned devices prefer something that's captured at the carrier level. That's also an option that we support through partners that can do that kind of capture. Voice is similar. Voice, again, depends on the platform in use, and there are technology partners of ours that allow us to do this, from anything from virtual turrets to collaboration platforms that support voice out to end users using mobile devices. So it's a wide range. That's very key to have a flexible vendor to support such a wide range of technology options.
No, that's really good, and thanks for that. I think there's a question that comes like attached. I think it's a good consequence of that one. So should the consequences to staff of not adhering to using these authorized platforms from whichever one it is, and what's the obligation from the organization to have like clearly communicated these rules and consequences? Vince,
in terms
maybe
of
you can answer.
Please go ahead.
Yeah.
I can jump in there. Oh, sorry, Vince. You go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, no, just I would say that definitely this goes back to the policies. This goes back to the requirements on each local jurisdictions when it comes to the consequence and the obligations to communicate the policies which are active in the organization, whether it is accepted through your contract, whether it is communicated through the e-learning platforms and the courses you go through. Obviously, here the overall objective is to protect, right? Is to prevent scenarios which are not good for the business. And so I think it's good practice to communicate and make sure that the policies are updated in terms of what can be used, what are the consequences. Obviously, there is a different answer compared to actions, and we see also many regulations in place which are already capturing the requirement of record keeping, from MiFID II in Europe to other macro areas and jurisdictions. You really want to make sure your interaction with a client or an external counterparty, when it comes and it's related to the conclusion of a deal, is captured, because at some point this can be relevant, right? But this obviously can have different flavors and different characteristics, moving from market to market, from geography to geography, and most importantly, jurisdiction. From in here.
No, thanks for that. And for the last question, because we have more, but we're running out of time, is I think, Donald, you can answer this one. How much regulatory pressure will there be heading into the second half of this year and beyond because of the increase of working from home?
Yeah, the regulators in both the U.S. and the UK have made it clear that they're not of the intention to relax the requirements. So there's obviously been stalls and delays to the in-person and on-site examinations, but they've definitely communicated their intentions to maintain the level of surveillance that they feel is required. So nobody's going to get a holiday from the requirements. I think the challenges will be to provide that proof of supervision, to provide evidence to those regulators that best practices were kept in place, that changes to technology were well documented, and that the procedures that were followed are defensible. As long as that preparation is made, and now's the time to be making those preparations, when you do face the final examination or the next round of investigation, you'll be well prepared to document the steps you've taken.
Oh, brilliant. Thanks for that. So as you are speaking, we have more questions and we'll try to answer them through email after we close the session. I would just ask, first of all, I wanted to say thank you for all the speakers. But before that, I wanted to see if Remington, Vince and Donald, you want to have 30 seconds, very quick kind of catch up of this webinar as we do need to close. Remington, do you want to start?
Yeah, happy to. Overall, just fantastic discussion, and thank you for the comments, Don and Vince, and the questions coming out. It just really shows that I think everyone understands the risks of the time we're in, this rapid adoption of new technology, completely necessary to work from home and keep people employed, but now we need to start thinking about how we're going to solve the challenges these have brought up and what technology we're using to really just put together proper workflows. Vince and Don both talked about the question of what do we do how do we stop people using unauthorized technology? Is it a matter of just putting together a big blacklist of everything we don't want our employees to touch? But the fact is we still need to give employees the ability to work and to do their job. And if you make it impossible, then you just make them numb to your own policies. They'll start to break them, and if they break one, they'll break multiple. So it's a fine line around giving people the ability to do their job, to embrace technology while we're all in this situation, while also giving back office people who are also working from home the ability to do their job and hold everyone accountable.
Oh, thanks for that. Donald, Vince?
Last thought for me. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Thanks for the contributions. You guys did a great job. I think the last thing I want to leave with is this transition and this kind of stress to the system has tested a lot of the technology platforms. And I think firms are starting to realize, those that are on platforms that backed by solid, reliable technology and vendors, are seeing what was a cost center, the kind of necessary evil of an archive, is now an asset, and it's something that can be used to the advantage of the corporation to provide flexibility to enable the business to do more. So I think we're seeing that kind of bar being raised a little bit, where the expectation is to get more out of the archive and do more with it. So that's my final thought.
Vince?
Yeah. And on my side, thanks everybody for this great opportunity. I would say the lesson learned is that, as Dan said, COVID-19 has tested the operational resilience of all areas of society and also business and technology. What is clear is that e-communications play and will play a key role in reshaping financial markets, the value chain of commercial financial markets. And the crisis has simply accelerated that path and also showed us where the challenges can be, what opportunities can be achieved, and how to improve our workflows when it comes to compliance and surveillance.
Yeah. So thanks for your last comments, and thank you, Vince, Donald, Remy, for participating. It was really interesting, to hear your insights in these topics. I'm sure our audience really enjoyed it. I wanted to thank everyone in the audience as well for listening and for making the questions and responding to the poll questions, which was quite interesting and gave us really good insights. I just wanted to highlight what's coming next. So as I mentioned, this is the first webinar of a series of 3. The next one will be focusing more on the regulatory landscape. Also, we will be launching to the market a report speaking about the e-communications in the fragmented area. Meanwhile, if you have any question or if you have any doubts, just please contact your account manager or visit our website, and we are more than happy to help you with this process. Good afternoon, good day. and we'll speak soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.